0400 hours deep within the Pacific Ocean. The attack submarine hangs suspended in the crushing blackness 500 feet below the rolling surface. Inside the pressure hull, the air is scrubbed, cool, and smells faintly of ozone and recycled oxygen. The control room is bathed in a low-intensity red wash to preserve night vision. The only illumination comes from the banks of digital monitors and the glowing buttons on the helm. The silence is heavy. It is a manufactured quiet, broken only by the low rhythmic thrum of the ventilation fans and the occasional metallic groan of the hull adjusting to the immense pressure outside. Crewmen sit motionless at their stations. They do not speak. They communicate with hand signals and subtle nods. A quartermaster marks a chart with a pencil, the scratch of graphite on paper sounding loud in the stillness. The ship glides through the water like a predator, its propeller turning slowly to minimize cavitation. In the sonar shack, the environment is even darker. The sonar operator leans forward, his face inches from the waterfall display. Lines of green static cascade down the screen, a visual representation of the ocean's acoustic chaos. He listens. Through his headset, the ocean is a cacophony of biologic noise. Whales sing across miles of open water. Shrimp snap and click near the thermal layers. A merchant ship churns the surface far to the east, its heavy propeller beating a dull rhythm against the water. The operator stiffens. His hand hovers over the gain control. He isolates a specific bearing. The static shifts. An anomaly appears in the green rain. It is faint, buried deep in the background noise, but it is there. It is not biologic, it is not random. It is rhythmic, it is mechanical. He spins his chair around. He taps the shoulder of the senior chief. The chief puts on the headset. He listens for 3 seconds. He rips the headset off and grabs the intercom. Con sonar, new contact, Sierra 25. Bearing 090. Classification, submerged hostile. The atmosphere in the control room shatters. The calm evaporates instantly. The officer of the deck shouts orders. The captain steps onto the con, his boots hitting the deck with heavy purpose. He does not hesitate. He reaches for the general alarm. The klaxon screams. The sound is a jagged electronic pulse that vibrates in the teeth. It tears through the sleeping quarters. Sailors bolt from their bunks. They collide in the narrow passageways, pulling on coveralls as they run. Boots slam against metal grates. Watertight doors swing shut with heavy thuds. The locking wheels spinning as crewmen seal the compartments. "Man battle stations, torpedo room, load tubes 1 and 2, the captain roars. The ship transforms. The red lights snap off, replaced by the harsh glare of white battle lanterns. The ventilation fans cut out to reduce noise. The attack submarine angles sharply downward. The deck tilts. Gravity pulls at the crew. The hull groans louder now, the steel ribs protesting as the vessel dives toward the thermal layer to hide its signature. In the torpedo room, the torpedomen move with practiced violence. They unlock the heavy breech doors. They wrestle the massive hydraulic loading rams. The golden cylinder of a heavyweight torpedo slides into the tube. The breech door slams shut. The locking ring spins and clicks into place. The weapons officer stares at his console. He flips the safety cover on the firing panel. His fingers dance over the keys, flooding the tubes with water. The sound of high-pressure water rushing into the tubes echoes through the bow. It is a distinctive hiss that signals lethal intent. The pressure equalizes with the deep ocean outside. The submarine levels off. The captain watches the depth gauge. He looks at the sonar repeater. The contact is still there. It is getting louder. The enemy is moving fast. 0415 hours, 600 feet below the surface. The attack submarine pierces the thermal layer. The water temperature drops instantly. The density of the ocean shifts. The acoustic barrier acts like a mirror, reflecting sound waves and masking the vessel's position from the enemy above. Inside the pressure hull, the silence is physical. It presses against the eardrums. The ventilation remains off. The only sound is the faint, high-pitched whine of the cooling pumps deep in the reactor compartment. The captain stands behind the sonar operator. He grips the back of the chair. His knuckles are white. On the screen, the green line of the hostile contact flickers. It is strong. It is close. The enemy is hunting. Contact is active, the operator whispers. He's pinging. A sound hits the hull. It is not a ping. It is a violent metallic whip crack. It strikes the steel skin of the submarine like a hammer. The sound resonates through the bulkheads. Dust falls from the overhead cable runs. Crewmen flinch. They look up at the ceiling. The active sonar pulse washes over them, stripping away their stealth. They are found. "Helm, right full rudder. Down 10 degrees, the captain barks. Make your depth 800 feet. The plainsman yanks the yoke. The deck tilts sharply. Loose pens roll across the chart table and clatter onto the floor. The submarine spirals deeper into the abyss, seeking the crushing protection of the deep. The hull screams, the pressure builds rapidly. Rivets pop with sounds like pistol shots as the steel compresses. In the fire control center, the weapons officer leans over the targeting matrix. His fingers fly across the keypad. Red brackets appear on the monitor, boxing in the hostile contact. The computer calculates speed, range, and depth. The numbers blur. The firing solution climbs. 50%, 70%, 90%. Solution locked, the weapons officer yells. Tube 1 and 2 ready for firing. The captain grabs the handset. He braces himself against the periscope stand as the boat vibrates from the strain of the dive. Match sonar bearings. Bearings matched, the sonar operator shouts back. The enemy submarine fires first. A distinct transient noise tears through the water. A rush of compressed air followed by the high-speed whine of a screw. Torpedo in the water, sonar screams. Torpedo in the water, bearing 095. The captain does not flinch. He looks at the weapons officer. The time for hiding is over. Shoot tube 1, the captain orders. His voice is flat. Shoot tube 2. The weapons officer smashes the firing key. 0428 hours. The pressure hull jolts violently. A deafening whoosh hammers through the forward compartment. Compressed air, pressurized to thousands of pounds, expands explosively. It kicks the massive torpedoes out of the tubes. The entire submarine shudders. It bucks backward against the water resistance, the recoil vibrating through the steel deck plates. Outside, in the crushing black water, the bow caps slide open. Two dark cylinders shoot into the abyss. A thin copper guidance wire spools out from the rear of each weapon, trailing back to the submarine like a spider web. The torpedoes clear the hull. A moment of silence hangs in the water. Then the propulsors ignite, the engines scream. The high-velocity screws bite into the water. The torpedoes accelerate instantly, leaving a turbulent trail of cavitation bubbles. They bank hard to the right, they dive, they hunt. Inside the control room, the mood is frantic. The red light pulses. The sonar operator grips his console with both hands. Torpedo incoming, range 2,000 yards, closing fast. The captain grabs the overhead rail. He leans into the microphone. All ahead flank, cavitate, deploy countermeasures. The engineer spins the throttle wheel. The nuclear reactor surges. Steam pumps slam open. The main propeller spins up to maximum revolutions. The submarine lunges forward. The sudden acceleration throws the crew backward. Books fly off shelves. Coffee mugs shatter on the deck. Hard right rudder, the captain screams. The submarine rolls 45 degrees. The deck becomes a wall. Gravity shifts. Men scramble to find handholds. The hull groans under the torsion, the steel ribs protesting the violent maneuver. On the aft flank, the countermeasure launcher fires. A 3-inch canister ejects into the wake. It explodes into a cloud of dense bubbles. It begins to shriek. It emits a loud, rhythmic thumping noise, mimicking the acoustic signature of the submarine's propeller. The enemy torpedo closes the distance. Its active sonar pings rapidly, ping, ping, ping. The sound is relentless. It pierces the hull. It searches for the metal skin of the submarine. The weapon reaches the bubbly wake of the decoy. The sonar locks onto the fake noise. The enemy torpedo swerves. It corrects its course, chasing the loud, shrieking canister instead of the ship. Weapon is deloused, sonar reports. It's chasing the decoy. The captain does not celebrate. He looks at the weapons display. His own torpedoes are still running. Cut the wires, he orders. Let them hunt. 0431 hours. The deep ocean 2 miles east of the American position. The enemy submarine attempts a desperate spiral dive. The heavy vessel groans as the rudder swings hard over. The propeller churns the water into a frenzy of white foam. Inside the enemy control room, the atmosphere is hysterical. Officers shout over the screaming alarms. The sonar display is awash of red. The high-pitched ping of the approaching weapon merges into a continuous, solid tone. It is the sound of inevitable death. The American torpedo ignores the cloud of decoys. Its logic processor locks onto the massive steel mass of the enemy hull. The weapon adjusts its fins one last time. It climbs sharply from below. It strikes the enemy submarine just aft of the sail. The warhead detonates. A massive bubble of superheated gas expands instantly against the crushing weight of the ocean. The double hull construction shreds like wet paper. The explosion rips a 20-foot hole through the outer steel skin and smashes through the inner pressure hull. The shockwave travels through the length of the ship faster than the sound of the blast itself. Inside the vessel, the world ends. The floor plates buckle upward. The force hurls the enemy crew into the ceiling. The captain is thrown across the room, his body slamming against the periscope stand with a wet crunch. Monitors explode, showering the command deck with glass and sparks. Then the water enters. At 800 feet deep, the ocean does not flow. It strikes like a solid piston. A jet of seawater, pressurized to hundreds of pounds per square inch, slices through the breach. It cuts through electrical cables, hydraulic lines, and flesh. The stream acts like a laser, decapitating a weeping sailor near the ballast controls. A thick mist of atomized oil and seawater fills the compartment instantly. The lights die. Emergency red beams flicker on, illuminating the chaos. The submarine rolls violently to port. Men slide helplessly down the tilting deck. They crash into the heavy equipment banks. Water rises rapidly, cold and black. It swirls around their waists, pulling them down. "Blow emergency ballast!" a surviving officer screams. He scrambles up the slanted deck on his hands and knees. Blood runs down his face. He reaches the levers. He yanks the handles. Compressed air hisses into the tanks, fighting to push the water out. It is useless. The hole in the hull is too big. The ocean is winning. The submarine stops its forward motion. It hangs suspended for a heartbeat, trembling. Then, the bow drops. The vessel begins the long slide backward into the abyss. 04:35 hours. The stricken enemy vessel falls past 1,200 feet. It slides stern first into the absolute dark. The damaged pressure hull groans loudly. It is a terrifying, resonant sound like a dying animal, audible for miles through the water. The steel ribs compress. Rivets shear off like bullets. The external pressure exceeds the structural limits of the metal. The hull fails. It happens in a microsecond. The ocean crushes the submarine inward. The steel walls snap. The remaining air pockets inside the ship compress instantly, heating up to the temperature of the sun. The interior incinerates before the water smashes everything flat. The submarine does not sink, it is erased. It collapses into a twisted knot of scrap metal and debris, plummeting toward the silt floor. A massive acoustic shockwave hammers outward. Aboard the American submarine, the sonar operator rips his headset off. He grimaces. The sound of the implosion blasts through the speakers in the sonar shack. It is a dull, heavy thud, followed by the tearing sound of twisting metal. The waterfall display washes out in a bright bloom of white noise. "Hull-popping noises confirmed," the operator says. His voice shakes slightly. "Target is breaking up, contact is lost." The control room falls silent. The captain lowers his binoculars. He looks at the fire control party. They do not cheer. They stare at their screens. Sweat drips from the nose of the diving officer. The weapons officer exhales a long, sharp breath and wipes his hands on his coveralls. "Reload tube 1 and 2, the captain orders softly. "Check for other contacts." "Sonar is clear. No other biologics, no machinery," the operator reports. The captain nods. He turns to the helm. "All ahead 1/3. Rudder amidships. Make your depth 400 feet. Let's clear the datum." The plainsman eases the yoke forward. The American submarine levels out. The reactor pumps slow their rhythm. The vessel turns away from the grave of the enemy ship. It glides back toward the thermal layer, disappearing into the acoustic shadows of the Pacific. 0500 hours. The Pacific Ocean, 10 miles from the debris field. The attack submarine moves at 5 knots, creeping through the deep acoustic shadows. The crew remains at battle stations, but the adrenaline is fading. The smell of sweat and tension lingers in the control room. The captain leans over the navigation table, reviewing the escape vector. The immediate threat is gone, crushed into the seabed floor. But the ocean is a conductor. The sound of the enemy submarine imploding, that violent metal shrieking event, traveled for hundreds of miles. It was a dinner bell. "Con sonar contact," the operator says. His voice is tight. "Multiple contacts, surface, bearing 080. Range 20 miles, high-speed screws." The captain snaps his head up. "Classify." "Blade rate suggests gas turbine engines," the operator replies. Destroyers, 2 of them, moving at 30 knots. They are sprinting toward the datum. The tension returns instantly. It is sharper now. A submarine fighting another submarine is a knife fight in a dark room. A submarine fighting surface destroyers is a mouse running from hawks. The destroyers are fast, agile, and carry infinite ammunition. "They heard the implosion," the executive officer whispers. "Prepare to go deep," the captain orders. "Rig for ultra-quiet. Secure all non-essential equipment. No talking, no dropped wrenches. If you sneeze, you die." "Con sonar, new contact, airborne, Tishayar, dipping sonar in the water." The sound of a helicopter rotor beating the air transmits faintly through the hull. Then, a new sound enters the water. A high-pitched, chirping mechanical noise. Chirp, chirp, chirp. It is an active dipping sonar, lowered by a hovering helicopter. It is searching. "Helicopter is strictly local," the captain says. "Helm, down 20 degrees, make your depth 1,000 feet." Get us under the layer before they get a lock. The submarine tilts. The descent is steep. The hull groans again, but this time the sound is terrifying. Every creak of metal is a beacon to the hunters above. The crew freezes. They look at the ceiling, imagining the helicopter hovering just above the waves, listening. 0510 hours, 1,000 feet below the surface. The attack submarine hangs in the crushing deep. The silence inside is absolute. No one moves, no one speaks. Even the breathing is shallow. The only sound is the external world coming through the hull. Ping. The sound is faint, like a pebble hitting a steel drum. Ping. It is louder. The helicopter's dipping sonar is searching. The sound waves wash over the submarine, bouncing off the anechoic tiles. Ping. He has us, the sonar operator whispers, his eyes are wide. Signal strength is high. He is transmitting data to the surface group. Above the waves, the lead destroyer turns. Its radar directors spin. On the forward deck, a box launcher elevates. A rocket motor ignites with a roar. An anti-submarine rocket streaks across the sky, trailing white smoke. It arcs over the ocean, aiming for the spot where the helicopter hovers. The rocket separates. A lightweight torpedo drops from the sky. A parachute deploys, slowing its descent. It hits the water with a sharp splash. "Weapon in the water!" sonar screams. "Bearing 085, it's close!" The captain abandons stealth. "All ahead flank," he roars. "Right full rudder. Deploy countermeasures. Eject the knuckle." The submarine wakes up. The reactor spikes. The propeller bites into the water, cavitating wildly. The ship banks hard to the right. As it turns, the rudder creates a massive swirl of turbulent water, a knuckle. This vortex of disturbed water reflects sonar, creating a false target. The enemy torpedo activates. Its high-pitched seeker head starts chirping. It dives fast. It locks onto the first thing it hears, the swirling water of the knuckle. The torpedo flies through the turbulence. It passes 50 yards behind the submarine's rudder. The proximity fuse senses the disturbance. The warhead detonates. The explosion is small compared to a heavyweight weapon, but the shockwave at this depth is brutal. It hammers the submarine's stern. The vessel shakes violently. Light bulbs shatter, dust rains down. A pipe in the engine room bursts, spraying hydraulic fluid over the turbine generator. "Damage report!" the captain yells, holding onto the periscope stand to stay upright. "Hydraulic leak in the engine room," the chief of the boat shouts over the intercom. "Crew is isolating. We still have propulsion." "Keep the turn," the captain orders. "Get us under the thermal layer, deep." 0515 hours. The ocean floor is far below, but the danger is directly above. The attack submarine levels off at 1,200 feet. The hydraulic leak in the engine room is sealed, but the smell of burnt oil fills the ventilation system. The crew wipes sweat from their eyes. The hull is cold to the touch. Above them, the ocean surface churns. The two destroyers cross the datum line. They are hunting in a pack. They do not slow down. Through the hull, the sound of their gas turbine engines is audible without headphones. It is a heavy, grinding mechanical roar, like a freight train passing over a bridge. The sound grows louder. It vibrates the deck plates. Destroyer 1 is passing directly overhead. Sonar shouts, "Closest point of approach, now!" The roar peaks. It fills the submarine. Dust shakes loose from the overhead pipes. Splash! Sonar yells. Objects in the water, stern drop. Depth charges. The canisters sink through the water column. They are set for deep detonation. They drift down, silent and heavy. The first charge detonates. Wham! The ocean acts like a solid hammer. The shockwave hits the submarine from above. The vessel slams downward. The depth gauge flickers. Lights blow out in the wardroom. A sailor in the galley is thrown against the stove. The hull groans. A long, agonizing screech of metal under torture. Wham! Wham! Two more explosions follow instantly. They are closer. The submarine shakes violently, like a toy in a dog's mouth. Alarms scream in the reactor control division. Rudder is jamming. The helm reports she's sluggish. The captain grabs the microphone. He wipes blood from a cut on his forehead. He looks at the weapons officer. Running is no longer an option. The destroyers are too fast. They will pound the submarine until the pressure hull cracks. "We have to make them blink," the captain says. His voice is cold. "Snapshot tube 3 and 4. Target the lead destroyer, surface mode." The weapons officer switches the targeting logic. He selects the surface setting. The torpedoes will not dive. They will climb. They will seek the wake of the ship above. "Snapshot set, weapons yells, tubes ready, shoot," the captain barks. 0518 hours, the surface of the Pacific Ocean. The lead destroyer cuts through the heavy swells at 30 knots. Black smoke pours from its stacks as the gas turbines run at maximum power. On the bridge, officers grip the railings, staring at the digital tactical display. The ship is vibrating, adrenaline rushing through the steel frame after dropping the depth charges. The crew waits for the kill confirmation from sonar. They get a death sentence instead. "Torpedo in the water!" the operations officer screams. "Directly below us, it's rising!" The captain slams the throttle controls. "Hard to port, all engines flank, drop Nixie!" The destroyer leans dangerously. The hull heels over 20 degrees, burying the port rail in the ocean foam. The propellers thrash the water, desperate for traction. It is trying to outrun a bullet. 500 feet below, the two American torpedoes rocket upward. They are in surface breach mode. They ignore the depth pressure. They hunt for the massive acoustic shadow of the ship's hull and the violent churning of its wake. The first torpedo clears the thermal layer. The guidance logic locks onto the thrashing sound of the destroyer's screws. It adjusts its fins, it climbs at a 45-degree angle. It breaks the surface. For a split second, the golden warhead breaches the water like a breaching shark, spray flying. Then, it dips back down and slams into the starboard quarter of the destroyer, just above the waterline. The explosion is catastrophic. 600 pounds of high explosive detonates against the unarmored steel skin. The blast shreds the hull plating. A fireball erupts outward, mixing with a geyser of white water and black oil. The shockwave travels through the ship's spine. The aft mast snaps, toppling forward onto the helicopter deck. The blast lifts the entire stern of the 5,000-ton vessel 6 feet out of the water. Inside the ship, the force is lethal. In the turbine room, machinery is torn from its mountings. High-pressure steam lines rupture, filling the compartment with scalding white death. Sailors are thrown across passageways like ragdolls. The lights die instantly, replaced by the orange flickering of fires taking hold. The ship slams back down into the water. The stern is gone. The rudder is twisted scrap. The ocean rushes into the engineering spaces. The destroyer shudders, losing all momentum. It begins to list heavily to starboard. "Mayday! Mayday! We are hit! We are taking on water!" The radio officer yells into the handset. Sparks shower down from the overhead console. The second torpedo misses the crippled lead ship. It passes through the wake, confused by the wreckage and the stopped engines. It continues searching, circling in the frothy water, looking for a new target. The second destroyer, 2 miles astern, sees the fireball. It sees the lead ship broken and burning. The captain of the second ship makes a fast decision. He does not stop to help. "Hard starboard," he orders. "Clear the area, flank speed." The second hunter flees. 0525 hours, 800 feet below the surface. The violence of the ocean surface feels distant now. The attack submarine stabilizes. The hull stops vibrating. The only sound is the rhythmic dripping of hydraulic fluid from a cracked line in the overhead piping. It hits the deck plates with a steady tap-tap-tap. The air is hazy, filled with dust shaken loose from the ventilation ducts. The captain stands in the center of the control room. He does not sit. He watches the sonar waterfall. The bright red bloom of the explosion above is fading, replaced by the chaotic, crackling sounds of a dying ship. Metal groans. Debris splashes into the water. Secondary explosions pop like firecrackers as ammunition cooks off on the burning destroyer. "Status report," the captain says. His voice is hoarse. "No active pings," the sonar operator replies. He presses the headphones tight against his ears. The second destroyer is running, high speed, opening the range to the north. They are abandoning the area. "Damage control?" the captain asks. "Forward trim pump is offline." The chief of the boat reports from the engineering panel. "We have a slow leak in the packing gland of the main shaft. Pumps are keeping up. Reactor is stable at 100%. The captain nods. He looks at the crew. They are covered in sweat, their chests heave. A young plainsman wipes grease from his face with a trembling hand. They are alive. "Secure from battle stations," the captain says. "Set the watch for damage control. Get the medical officer to the engine room for the burns." The red battle lights remain on. The ship is wounded, but it is breathing. 0545 hours. The attack submarine creeps forward at 5 knots. It uses the acoustic clutter of the sinking destroyer as a shield. The ocean behind them is noisy. The stricken surface ship is breaking up. Bulkheads collapse underwater. Heavy machinery tears loose and plummets to the bottom. The noise creates a wall of sound, masking the faint hum of the submarine's propeller. The captain orders a course change to the south. The vessel banks gently. There is no violent lurching this time. The movement is smooth, fluid. The submarine slips through the thermal layer, descending back into the cold, high-pressure deep. In the sonar room, the operator watches the contact fade. The angry red line of the enemy ship becomes a smudge, then a ghost. The ocean returns to its natural state. Whales begin to call again in the distance. The background static of the Pacific washes over the sensors. Contact lost, the operator whispers. We are clear. The weapons officer safes the firing panel. He turns the key, locking the remaining torpedoes. The ready-to-fire lights blink off. The tension in the room breaks like a snapped wire. A collective exhale moves through the command center. 0630 hours. Deep Pacific. Sunrise begins far above on the surface, turning the black waves to gray. But down here, it is eternal night. The attack submarine cruises silently at 400 feet. The leak in the shaft seal is patched. The dust is swept from the floors. The ventilation hums quietly, scrubbing the smell of ozone and fear from the air. In the cruise mess, the off-going watch sits at the metal tables. They do not talk about the explosion. They do not talk about the imploding submarine or the burning destroyer. They eat powdered eggs and drink black coffee. Their hands are steady now. The captain sits in his stateroom. He writes in the ship's log. The pen scratches across the paper. 0630. Engagement concluded. Hostile targets neutralized. Ship sustaining minor damage. Proceeding to patrol sector. He closes the book. He turns off the desk lamp. The room goes dark. The only light comes from the red digital clock on the bulkhead. The ship moves on, an invisible steel shark in the endless black water.